listened to the radio at any time in I don't know how many years, fair few years, you would know this voice.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Adelaide.
What do you think? Ring bells? Sound familiar? That is the great Paul Makin. How are you?
Oh, Jeremy, it is such a pleasure to be here. I've never been in such a radio studio before.
Well, no, it's a bit odd, I know. Eclectic, strange. It's hard to put a word to it.
You really are, and I say this with the greatest respect.
Eccentric?
A bowerbird.
Oh, bowerbird. Yes, that's true. That's true. I go to the auctions and the op shops and the anywhere that you're likely to. In fact, we still have those clean-up days in Adelaide where people put out their rubbish.
Yes.
Or it's not rubbish. There's a lot of collectibles there. They put them out on the street and the council comes around, picks them up, but not before I get there.
Well, I think it is absolutely wonderful. And my wife says I'm a very strange and weird character because I do things off the wall, and so I feel very comfortable sitting in front of you in the surroundings because this is what I love, people who are different, and we're running out of characters in
We've got to
Australia.
be crazy.
Yeah.
We have to be crazy. Certain amount of craziness is a good thing.
It is. Where are all the characters, Jeremy, that we used to have in Australia?
I think we've frightened them to death. We've isolated them. We've persecuted them.
We've woke them,
imprisoned them, certified them.
I should have been certified years ago, but they've never been able to catch me.
No, I think there's great advantage in being fleet of foot. You probably don't know the name B. Miles, do you?
Oh, it rings a bell.
B. Miles was a true eccentric. She never wore pants under her underpants. She never wore anything underneath her skirt.
Hello.
This is going back to let me think, it would be going back to the 40s and the 50s and a little bit of the 60s.
Is this an Aussie lady?
Yep. And she was a character in Sydney. And she had a brilliance about her. She could and did recite Shakespeare. Any part of Shakespeare, she knew every single play by heart, and she would stand on a corner and she would, in this beautiful English accent, she was an Australian, but beautiful English accent, she would recite poetry to the passers-by and occasionally lift her dress.
Oh, hello. See, you had me until lift her dress.
Yeah, and then she had another penchant for getting into taxis and going somewhere.
Right.
And simply refusing to pay the bill. And I won't take it any further, but she had a means of I don't know completing the transaction or
I get you.
Currency or something.
I get you.
I don't know. But a lot of it is legend, and you don't really know how much of it is true. But I think they may have written a book or made a small movie about B. Miles. I don't know what the B stood for. I don't know whether it was an initial or just BE.
I'd just say bloody nuisance.
No, look, she did make a bloody nuisance of herself,
yeah.
but she was one of those characters.
Yep. And today she'd be in Long Bay.
Yeah, you'd get short shrift, I'm afraid.
You would.
These days. See, I'm very careful who I invite into this house because I would never bring a psychiatrist into it.
Oh, God, no. No. They'd be outside with butterfly nets.
Oh, that's true. And I like to think, though, that everything in this room, and I say the same thing about the garage, everything in this room has been thrown away by someone at least 3 times. And that includes me.
Well, no. Because you're a survivor.
And so are you.
I am. Now, what I think is wonderful, I'm waving the Australian flag now because
I have a few of them.
I love it. And You know, if you go to the United States, Jeremy, you see American flags just about on every house and every building. In Australia, there seems to be a group of people who are ashamed of this wonderful flag.
Yeah, we're being told, our enthusiasm, our patriotism is being slowly wrung out of us, and we are meant to feel ashamed of our past, our history, our pioneers. And that's wrong.
It is wrong. And there are so many people, and particularly many politicians now, who want to divide us.
Well.
And we have that through the voice. And of course, Australians voted no. Prime Minister won't accept it. And many Labor politicians, that side of the House, refuse to accept it.
Yeah.
And Australia has spoken. So I still have hope. I'm an optimist, and I still have hope that the Australian people get it and say, we're not copping this crap and this wokeness and this politically correctness, and everybody's annoyed about something that you say. I would say I'm over it, except that I'm still in there, like you, fighting for it, for the right for Australians to be Aussies.
Yeah.
We don't have to be anything else. We are Aussies, and that includes black, brown, brindle, whatever religion you are, we're Australians.
Yeah. And when you get on the wrong trail or the wrong tram, most sensible people would understand, they'd get it. But you see, all right, so 60% of Australians voted no for this voice, and I don't have it here still. No, I think I must have put it up in the garage. I had a really big sign that somebody sent me, which simply said, vote no. It was on the front gate, on the front fence. And I brought it in and put it in here, and now it's up in the garage. But we all voted no, simple as that. The state government here said, "Oh no, we'll have a local version of it," completely disregarding the fact that the majority of South Australians did not want the voice.
That surprised me with Malinowskis because, generally speaking, and I've been asking people around town, he's a pretty popular premier.
He is. He could be there for 20 years if he just doesn't go down that woke.
Yeah, he seems to be doing a good balancing act, and I think as a premier, he is one of the best, if not the best premier in Australia at the moment. He has a lot of common sense, but obviously there are factions. It's a real, you know what it's like. It's juggling these other people and the other factions in your party and keeping them happy. And I imagine that was a little a little faction call. That was.
Have you ever been tempted to go into politics?
Oh God, no.
No.
I'd last 5 minutes. I'd tell the leader, go and get stuffed if I disagreed with him. So that doesn't make a good politician.
Well, the Libs need a good, charismatic
just
leader.
lost your Liberal leader.
I know. Well, I've publicly said that he should not have accepted the job when it was offered and perhaps shouldn't have striven to get it in the first place.
Mr. Bland.
Well, not only that, I couldn't even understand what he was saying.
I couldn't either.
No. Well, it's probably you could say it's the policy on anything and everything, and you could make of it what you will. You could put your own interpretation on it to satisfy yourself.
But Jeremy, up to date, who's going to take over from this bloke?
I don't know. I mean, unless, of course, Malinowskis is seduced into federal Labor politics. I don't think Albanese's there for the long run.
No, he's not. But I can't see Malinowskis leaving South Australia. I think it's in his blood. I think his family's here. Yeah. He has a family here. His heart belongs to South Australia. I can't see him going federal. The other great premier, I think, is Chris Minns in New South Wales. He's another sensible premier. But I wouldn't give you two bob for the rest of them, including Albanese. I think he's the worst prime minister in my living memory. Yeah.
I can't see him winning the next election.
He's a dud.
Well,
he's a complete dud.
Why don't you tell us what you really think?
Listen.
Wasn't Whitlam even worse?
Oh, no, Whitlam did some good things. He did some bad things, but no, Whitlam wasn't all that bad.
Well, no, he did some things that I didn't approve of, like this thing called the Lima Declaration, which was the quiet signing off with Lance Barnard, the Deputy Prime Minister at the time. He signed off on the Lima Declaration, which basically deindustrialized Australia. The idea was, we've got to help all these third world countries, so what you developed countries are going to do is to divest yourself of your manufacturing capacity. And this was back in 1975, and at the time China, for example, would have been little more than a peasant economy. But because of the policies of the Labor Party, Whitlam in particular, helped by the trade union movement, we lost thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs. Now, I can't imagine why the trade union movement would have said, yes, that's a good idea, let's do that.
That's a strange one, isn't it?
Well, you can't deny it. I mean, if you go to if I had my mobile phone here, I do it on occasion, and I Google, tell me about the Lima Declaration.
Why do you put yourself through this over and over again?
I like to remind myself of the destructiveness of some of these people.
Oh, terrible.
Who have an agenda that they are not being honest with us about.
Why do they want to ruin Australia?
I don't know. What is in it for them to have China and Korea and the Philippines and Indonesia flourish when we are not? We are going backwards, and the other third world countries are quickly first world countries at our expense.
It makes no sense, Jeremy.
No, it doesn't make any...
Hey, listen, talking of Gough Whitlam, I used to have a little segment on my radio show on 5KA called Cough on the Line.
It's not a Gough.
No, but Cough on the Line. And it used to be a good morning. Good morning, South Australia.
Hello.
This is the Prime Minister of Australia, Gough Whitlam, and it's wonderful that you've invited me to the studio today on behalf of all Australians, including...
My fellow Australians.
Exactly. But he was... Where are these characters now in politics? You know, even John Howard you could have a bit of fun with.
Yes.
But the politicians now all seem to be so bland.
Yes. Did you ever talk to Fred Daly?
Oh, all the time.
He's wonderful, Gary.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Wonderful sense of humour.
But they're the old school.
Jim Killen and Fred Daly were a hell of a double. They could have been a Laurel and Hardy. They could have been a Abbott and Costello.
Yeah.
They could have been anything.
Paul, what's his name? The treasurer? Paul
Keating.
Paul Keating.
Yeah. Saw him last night.
Did you?
Yeah, so it was on the ABC.
Yeah. Well, he had some wonderful moments in Parliament. You remember when he said to his opposition across, he said, I'm going to do you slowly. Remember, there were some wonderful things. But where are the characters in Parliament now? It's all so politically correct.
Oh, yeah, they're all towing the line. There are a lot of songs about the radio. One that I like, which was I think it was a sort of a promotional campaign when the Federation of Australian Commercial Broadcasters used to put out a promotional package for every radio station to play, and this was one of them.
It makes me smile and it makes me glad. It makes me laugh and it makes me sad. From the day I was born till the day I go, I want to listen to the radio. It lifts me up and it turns me on, and it stays by my side till the nights go. From the day I was born till the day I go, I want to listen to the radio. Oh, listen to the radio.
You know, I remember the first time I met you, which would have been when we at 2GB lovingly called you guys the Adelaide Mafia.
Not so lovingly in some areas of the radio station, Jeremy. They hated our guts.
Well, it was a hard call. But Caroline, I think I needed to tell the story. I think I need a glass of wine. It's almost. Another tea? No, let me have another. Let me have a glass of wine.
Oh my goodness! What's brought this on?
I'm just reminiscing. I'm just thinking.
Caroline, could I have a glass of red as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
And one for Tony.
Thank you.
Yeah, because 2GB was this august talk radio station, key station of the Macquarie network, and we all thought ourselves terribly, superior and proper. You know, I was doing breakfast, and to do breakfast, I would come with a suit and a collar and tie at 5 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. And everybody, you would not go to work at 2GB without a collar and tie. That would just simply be, even the sporting people would have a collar and tie, properly dressed. Now, for some strange reason, I think it was possibly Rags Henderson. Why they called him Rags, I'm not exactly sure. But Rags Henderson was the chairman of Fairfax, and they had this idea. He'd gone to America, and he decided that music would be the better thing. Well, what do we need all these producers for? And these people, they get paid far too much money. This is ridiculous. We can just get people to play records. You know what records are? Play records. He talked like that. Anyway, he obviously convinced people like Stan Clark, who was the big chief at the time, that this was the go. And the guy he brought in was Paul Thompson.
Yes, Paul Thompson, who was my boss at 5KA, who later went on, of course, started,
SAFM. But he is a brilliant man of radio.
Absolutely.
An absolutely brilliant man of radio. But the idea, and I never could quite understand, and I never had the opportunity to actually ask him, why, with his great knowledge and flair for radio, why would you think that you could take this radio station that had been a talk station for so long and, just suddenly sort of do a know where no wrinklies fly, and you just say, well, your audience is too old, turn it off, and they did. And the ones you wanted you didn't get, but the ones you had you lost.
Yeah, but that was only, remember, Jeremy, that was the first survey, and he told the management that the first survey you'd be rating zip.
Yeah.
It's going to go down to zip.
Anyway.
But it's your second and third survey where you will start seeing it come up. Now, you can argue for and against that, but if you look at the format of SAFM that became incredibly successful,
yes,
that was the format of SAFM on AM radio in Sydney.
Yes.
Now, you could tell the young ones were starting to get the idea. This thing over on 2GB...
which became 87 2GB.
Yeah. Had interviews with the Little River Band.
Yeah.
You had Skyhooks on air with Barry Bissell.
Yes.
This whole thing was happening. If they'd given it 2 or 3 surveys, I guarantee you it would have been a monster, because it became a monster on SAFM.
But there's
same format.
The people don't have any patience. They have to have the results yesterday.
Yes, and that's what happened. They panicked and sacked all of us. And I can remember going across the road to that pub in the afternoon, because we all lined up to get our pay packets.
Yes.
Even including Paul Thompson had to line up at the pay office to get his pay.
Yeah.
And we went across the pub, across the road. That was, we got there about 11 a.m. and we left there the next morning at 2 a.m. You can imagine the state we were in. Yeah. John Vincent.
Yes. John was doing breakfast, I think.
Yes.
He took over from me.
Yes. I did. I did news, of course, and my infamous, did you hear about me throwing the typewriter through the window?
No.
Well, what happened was each morning I would come to work, and I'd come to work at about 5 a.m. to get all my material ready. I had a roller tape recorder there in my office, but each day the guard locked my office. And I had to go searching for him all over the whole building. And each morning they locked it. I asked Paul Thompson, could you please ask that it be left unlocked? And they wouldn't give me a key. So I came in with this huge story. The Strand Arcade went up in this huge fire, and I had all of the actuality. And I couldn't get into my office. So I went around to the newsroom, grabbed a typewriter, tossed it through the window, got a ladder and climbed into my office to start work.
Well, the Lord helps those who help themselves.
Yeah, well, you can imagine how Corbett Shaw, the news director, felt about that.
Oh, Corbett Shaw.
Oh, my goodness. You know what he said to me one day? He said, Paul Makin, all of this stuff that you do at the fire and that, interviewing firemen and eyewitnesses. Have you ever heard of a telephone? I can pick up a telephone and do exactly the same thing.
But you're getting the actuality, the atmosphere. You're getting the promotion.
But that was your establishment, 2GB News, saying to me, "This is a circus what you do, Mr. Makin. We actually talk to people on the telephone."
But we like circuses. I agree with that. I don't agree with Corbatshaw on that subject.
You agree?
No, I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah. So I had the Strand Arcade fire. The 2GB newsroom refused to take my actuality. I cut up my stuff and John Vincent played it in between news bulletins.
Yeah.
That's how ridiculous that was at the stage. So I was quite relieved. And, of course, when I lost my job there, I went back to Adelaide and I got a call from 2UE,
Yes.
Greg Granger, the news director, who said, "Paul, what are you doing in Adelaide? Get your ass back to Sydney."
Which you did.
Which I did, and then pretty well straight after that I covered the Granville train disaster, the first reporter on the scene of that. And then Willisey heard me on 2UE and I went to the Mike Willisey show. So that was a great move for me.
These things do lead one to another, I know, but you've got to cheers. But you've got to be prepared for the roller coaster ride, which is the broadcasting business. When all of this erupted, I was, let me think, I'd been married about a year, and it was a baby on the way, and they knew that. And Paul Thompson, to his great credit, don't know how he swung it, but he didn't sack me. John Pearce and I were the only two that weren't sacked from the old 2GB regime. And what he did, he gave me, they weren't big on news. We had, I think, 3-minute news bulletins or 1-minute news bulletins. I got the 1 o'clock, the 2 o'clock and the 3 o'clock, and he left me on my breakfast show salary, which wasn't really all that great, but it was enough to pay the rent and to get by. So I figured that 3 minutes work a day, I had to be the best paid person. You counted the seconds in the business.
And you were the best sounding newsreader.
Oh, look, I wasn't good at reading news. I'm never good
at... But you've got a beautiful voice. And, for somebody like yourself reading a news bulletin, that's pretty damn good.
Well, we at 2GB, I don't know that we were really big on news readers back in the day, but here in South Australia, 5DN had the biggest newsroom imaginable. Oh, all sorts of people there. I think the newsroom might have had 20 journalists. Because in those days you had to, if you had
an A grade, you needed a B grade,
yes,
C grade,
yeah,
etc.
yeah.
Down to a cadet.
Yeah. And the more, if you have 1A, you have to have 2 Bs.
That's right.
If you have 2 Bs, you've got to have 3 Cs.
That's right. That's right.
The old Journalist Union was a very powerful outfit. I don't hear anything about them these days.
Well, the AJA, you're absolutely right. But you skipped a lot there. I think Paul was responsible in helping you get to 5DN.
He did. No, he did, absolutely.
But when you got to 5DN, you made the most of it because you became the biggest star in Adelaide radio on 5DN, and that's true.
Well, I needed the opportunity, and they gave me the help. They gave me the publicity. They sort of made much of me. Because it takes two to tango. The radio station can bury you or it can promote you. And, thank God they promoted.
Yes, but, you could have got there and failed, but you didn't. You brought all of that Sydney experience with you, and the Sydney market is different to the Adelaide market, but you adjusted to that. You had that, you've always had that amazing radio style. You're just born to radio.
And so are you.
Well, thank you. But you brought that to Adelaide radio and suddenly people were hearing talkback done in a way they'd never heard before. This was revolutionary for Adelaide at the time. I mean, talkback now and 5AA and all of that and, Sydney 2GB are doing talkback. There's quite a number of stations. But you brought something incredibly special to 5DN and the listeners responded, and boy, did they respond. That was absolutely massive.
Oh, I was very lucky. I was very lucky.
It worked out, look, sliding doors, it worked out magnificently for you. And here you are in Adelaide. You would never have been sitting in this house in the studio.
No.
If it hadn't been for the mafia.
Paul, absolutely right. And Paul Thompson facilitated. He organised for me to come over here, have lunch with Paul Linkson, and look at the scene, and then he urged me to, because I remember him saying to me, I can't save you, and I can't save myself.
Wow.
So get the hell out of here.
Yeah. But you did.
Take the job.
And you did.
It's a formidable thing if you've spent your whole life in one city and you just bought a house. You know, what do you do? Well,
where was that house, by the way?
Well, that one was in Spencer Road at Cremorne.
Oh, my goodness. Do you know how to pick the suburbs, don't you?
No, well, look, we're talking 1974, I guess, 1974.
75, yeah.
But I think we paid $42,000 for the house in Spencer Road, Cremorne. You know, remarkable value for money back in those days, and people complained about the high cost of real estate. Do you believe it?
Oh, it's
in
amazing.
Sydney. I don't know what that house would be worth today.
But, you know, you look back at 5DN and what a great radio station 5DN was, you know, under the old olive tree.
Yep.
We're searching for sunshine.
Oh, that's old.
We're looking for a friendly place, a silver lining, a happy face, a little grin in that open space, and a chance to say, have a happy day. We're looking for people.
And when we got that Happy Day, Have a Happy Day package, was bought from America, and we had, oh, God knows, we had matchboxes, we had coasters, we had, there was a little 5-second version of it, and there was a rock and roll version of it, and there was a calypso version. That was good fun.
Oh, it was great fun. And, of course, Paul Linkson gave me my first radio gig.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Midnight to Dawn on DN. And
what year was that?
1969, 70. 1969, 70. And you know who really schooled me, took me under his wing? Mel Cameron.
Oh, yes, the great Mel Cameron.
What a delightful human being. And my first song I ever played, and it was my last song I played out of Port Douglas at the radio station, was...
You got to tell us about that.
Yeah, Lynn Anderson, Rose Garden was my first song I played. And the
You
last
never
one
promised
I
me
played.
a rose garden.
Yeah, I can always remember.
I think we probably have a grab of...
I could sing you a tune and promise you the moon. That's what it takes to hold you. I'd just as soon let you go.
Memories.
But there's one thing I want you to know. You better look before you leave. Still waters run deep, and there will always be someone there to pull you out. And
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, your Midnight to Dawn with Paul Makin here on 5DN. Good morning, everybody. If you're enjoying the show, ring me on the normal telephone line.
Do you remember the number?
No,
I don't.
I can't. Can you remember?
Tony remembers.
used to listen to Jeff Medwall, he'd say.
Jeff.
Oh, Jeff Medwall, indeed. Yes.
267 1486.
Oh, my God.
267 1486. You see, Tony has a mind like, well, he's a genius
Steel
anyway,
trap.
but he's got a mind like a steel trap. And you know that we're August 9 now, on the 11th, which is Sunday, 5DN will officially be celebrating its 100th birthday.
Oh,
That was a test. That was a test broadcast. For which they sent the 21st anniversary birthday card. What's that? Oh, yes, that's the original thing at the
Yes.
dining room table.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and there's Jeff Medwall in the picture.
Yeah. Okay, I'll tell you what. Paul Makin's my special guest. Stay with us a sec. Paul Makin is with me, and fresh from the beautiful Port Douglas area. I love that part of the world.
It is beautiful up there. We went up in 2018, my lovely bride Marion and I, and we bought the radio station. I felt like Jeremy Cordeaux.
I tell you what, it's a good feeling, isn't it?
It's a good feeling to own the joint.
I like the radio so much I bought it.
Yes, I loved it so much. And then I did the Makin and Eggs for breakfast, the breakfast
That's
show.
clever, yeah.
Thank you. And we did that till 2 years ago, and then the community got together and got a community licence, and I saw the writing on the wall. Not enough room for 2 radio stations. So we sold the station to the community. who are still paying it back. And yes, so we're doing it on time payment. I and myself and Marion gave 2 years volunteering for the community radio station, and I moved to Makin in the mornings.
Yeah, that's a good name too.
Thank you. So I just had a great time.
Have you thought of a cooking show? Making bacon.
Making bacon. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I used to get called that at school. They'd go, making bacon.
Sorry to bring back the memories. Were you good at school?
No.
No, I wasn't either.
No, because I was always dreaming. The teacher used to always say, we had an Irish teacher, and he said, Makin, you're always making a mistake. And you're up the back there dreaming away. What are you dreaming about, Makin?
We have an imagination, tell him.
That's what I said. I said, I'm just dreaming one day I'll be a radio announcer.
Yeah.
Truly, that's true.
Well, who were the idols? Who did you look up to?
Oh, well, Bob Rogers, of course, at the time.
Yeah. So you grew up in Sydney?
Yes. And there was some wonderful, wonderful radio people around in those days. Of course, you had the 2SM good guys as well.
Yes.
They were...
Yeah. Oh, dear, those names. I mean, you just mentioned 2SM and the names sort of flash by.
Give me one.
Big Sam Cronje.
A Big Sam Cronje. And there was also an announcer that disappeared on a sailing boat. Do you remember that? There was I think he was the morning announcer, and he went sailing one day and disappeared.
Big mistake.
Huge story.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was amazing.
And there was Tony Withers.
Tony Withers.
Who changed his name to Tony Winters and went to England.
That's
I don't know
right.
exactly why he did that.
Didn't you do a wonderful... Did you once do a Bob Rogers impression? Could you do Bob Rogers?
No. I spoke to him a couple of times over the years, but when he got the flick from somewhere, I don't know where, he came to Adelaide. He got a gig at, it was either KA
oh, really?
or it was AD.
Bob Rogers?
Yes, very briefly.
Right.
And the press had a little fun thing. I've never seen that there was any similarity between our voices, but they ran a competition. They said it was a Bob Rogers sound-alike competition, and the real Bob Rogers came second.
Did you win it?
I won it.
You won
now,
it.
I don't understand that, but because I've never tried to sound like anyone. If I tried to sound like anyone, I would try to sound like John Laws, because he was
Howdy, everybody.
There he
as
is.
We used to say when we were much younger.
Thank
Bob
you.
Rogers.
Thank you,
and
Bob.
You're listening to Jeremy Cordeaux.
Because he was...
That's from the grave.
Well, it is from the grave in the sense that he was almost 100, you know.
Yes.
But he, when I spoke to him there, and when I'd have a guest on the evening show at AA, I'd always ask them to stay on the line and give me a little pointer, you know, say, hi, this is Leon Biner, and I'm listening to Jeremy Cordeaux. I hope you're enjoying the show, sort of thing. Just to throw into the mix.
I used to listen occasionally, and if you came on air sometimes, I'd go, is that Bob or is it Jeremy? And I'm not being nasty when I say that.
No. It was totally unintentional on my part.
I know, but there were certain little aspects in your voice that were amazing.
But going back to the...
Ward Austin.
I was going to say.
Ward Austin was another one. He was my favourite.
But he was the Bob Rogers, because when Bob Rogers left 2UE and went to 2SM to follow the Beatles around the world, a seamless applicant, being Ward Austin, I don't know, just good luck, I suppose, or good management or something, but he went on the air and he sounded to me exactly like Bob Rogers.
Wow.
And it never missed a beat, because you could just go on listening to 2UE and what you thought was Bob Rogers was Ward Austin.
Ward Austin, a Rickapooty and a Fan Doodly.
Well, he became that when he went to 2UW.
That's
and he
right.
got a lot more
That's right.
rock and roll.
No, but it was fantastic. I used to go, I'd come home from school and I'd go straight into town outside the glass at 2UW watching Ward Austin. So
he was a character.
He was my
what a character
and I
he
met
was.
him.
Yeah.
And when you meet your hero and they're just as nice.
Yes, he was a nice man.
He was a nice man.
And when you meet these people, I don't know what Leon Byner's arrived.
Leon Byner. I haven't seen Leon for many, many years, but we worked together at 5KA when he did Fun Tune Fanny. And remember all that? Fun Tune Fanny and the professor from Canman 2 University. What an amazing...
You are tuned into the Court of Public Opinion with Leon Byner.
Hey, Leon's taken the show.
That's obviously a sign for me to get off.
Oh, no. We'll swap places. Swap places and stay around.
Leon, come over this side. Right. But Leon worked at KA, and what an amazing announcer he's been over the years, and then making the transition to talk back at AA, and an incredible announcer and one of the greats of Australian radio. Is that a big enough build-up for you, Leon?
One of the things you've got to do in this business, I think, is to reinvent yourself.
Yes.
And do it as often as you can, because you don't want to get bored. You don't want to be totally predictable. Do you think, Caroline, you could give my expert on the Middle East?
And said we're running 10 minutes late.
Yeah, okay, all right. Because we want to talk about the Middle East, and I could think of nothing more in Congress.
It's the Muddle East, mate.
To jump into the Muddle East while we're having this fun at the moment.
Yeah.
And we've got Bob Day, Senator Bob Day, coming on at about 11:30 as well. So perhaps could you put him off till next week?
Yeah.
I think that's the best idea.
Or 11:30, or 11:30.
No. No. If you could just maybe this is you produce the program as it goes to air around here. It works like a charm. No, give Ian a ring and just say, could we make it next week? Because I think jumping from one subject to another is terrific. But I'm having too much fun talking to you guys. I only wish I had 2 or 3 microphones. I'm not giving up mine. Although I don't know. I don't know about that. No, Paul, you come up here and you take this one, and I'll go and put the kettle on, and you two have fun. I want to listen